So, as we continue our journey on renewal of ourselves and how we develop ourselves, I thought it would be important now for us to take a look at, are we taking the right approach to life, to the things that are going on in our lives? Do we have it right? Whether we're facing a challenge, a decision, a change in direction, the question for us to ask ourselves is this: what choice will I make regarding how to view what is happening? Jeffrey's situation is the perfect scenario for us to review. Over a month ago, we started with just a swollen knee. Looked like something that should have been in a produce department. Next thing I know, we're in a series of blood tests, an MRI, a CT scan, all of which showed abnormalities, not just related to the knee. He had only had a physical 3 days prior. What could be happening? Surgery needed, couldn't be scheduled because all these other things were going on, and they all required more tests this past week. And in fact, a multitude of more tests. So the perspective we could choose was between two thoughts. One, he needs his surgery repaired. Why are these other things showing up? Or, boy, are we grateful that this knee brought attention to the other things. Or did the knee cause all the other things? Regardless, what was the point of having anything other than an attitude of gratitude for the number of ways they were validating that he should be safe enough to go through that surgery that he needs to have? So Friday, we finally got sign off that he's allowed to have surgery, which should be this Wednesday or the following, because by the time we got the approval, the doctor's office was closed. We couldn't schedule. But my point to you is that for a month, this has been going on, and he had two choices at all times: to see it as a crisis or to look for the good in this. And while in the moment it's not always easy, it's necessary. Same thing with what happened yesterday in Fellowship Hall. Big group here paying a lot of money for the place, right? And we have a pipe break. Oh no, how could that happen now? Blah, 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 right? That's thought one. And thought two is, thank God we hadn't put the new floor down yet. Right? Okay, it's always a choice. It's always a choice to see whether something is a burden or a blessing. It's up to us. One of my favorite messages about this concept comes from a man named James Dewhurst, who wrote this. And I really think this is an attention grabber. He said, every significant blessing in life comes with a burden. Every employee wants the blessing of a juicy salary, medical benefits, and a matching 401k, is first-handed a job description, a work schedule, and high production quotas. Every athlete who wants the blessing of time to play in a game is first-handed a practice schedule, a workout regimen, and an opportunity to compete without being promised a position. Every college student who wants the blessing of a degree is first handed a schedule of classes, a syllabus for each class, and deadlines for every assignment. Blessings often come with burdens. In fact, blessings don't come without them. they come out of burdens. Even Santa came with a clause. I didn't write it. But I want you to think about all the life experiences that we've had and how each of them has been an example of burden or blessing and making that choice. Think about a time when you moved out of your first apartment and you bought a home or rented a home and you couldn't wait. Oh, I'm going to finally have a garden and more space. I'm so excited. I'm going to put in a garden. I'm going to make a little grassy area, my flowers, right? Until you look around and say, wow, this place is a lot bigger than the one I had. I'm going to need more furniture. And then, oh, I need to cut the grass and water the flowers. Oh, I need a hose. In fact, I may need a few of them. Right? Okay, before you know it, now you're not going out anywhere on Saturdays like you did in your apartment. You're not meeting any of your friends anymore because you really can't afford it, number one, because your house payment's so much more. And second, because you have too much housework to do. It takes less than 60 days for a new home buyer to have that moment of, what did I do? And now, you cannot take unpaid time off because your house payment is too much. Before you ever make the first payment, you are already talking about what you have on your plate and how much more work this has become. The blessing turned into a burden. Even the situation with the picnic. Candace has been pulling the team together, trying to make the right decision. What do we do? What do we do? What do we do? But guess what? Doesn't it make the most sense to have a Latin-themed party on a weekend that is specified for Latin themes? And oh, by the way, the new patio will be up and the tables will be out there. So it all worked out. Was it a blessing or a burden? In all of these experiences, it's easy to become fully aware of the yin and yang. The whole concept in Chinese philosophy, right? Yin and yang represent light and dark, and they're defined as opposite or contrary forces, which may be complementary, interconnected, and interdependent. Blessing, burden, light and dark, it all folds together. And as we interact with life, both forces are going to show up and we are going to have to make a choice. And as Eric Butterworth said, when we do, we can become bitter or better as a result of our experiences. Sir John Templeton talks about how every journey we take in life requires us to demonstrate courage and steadfastness. And few journeys in life are completed without diversions and detours. Think of one. Let's go back to when Elliot moved into his new home. Yeah. Yeah. Talk about detours and diversions. One right after the other. Brand new home, all excited, new family, right? Not so much. Now we have to rent a different place. Our house is being torn apart, and one repair led to another. But in the end, what did Elliot end up with? Him and Jillian have a new home. Inside, nothing looks like what it did. But the pain and the challenge of that burden was a lot, and it's hard to see the blessing. But part of the progression in life comes from our ability to learn how to accept difficulties with grace and with love. Gratitude for what can this teach me? Gratitude for what can I learn? What can I get out of this? How will I grow? How will I become more courageous? From our experience, we have all learned that our life journey includes ups and downs and twists and turns and unexpected surprises. But the question we have to ponder is twofold. I want you to really think about what I'm asking us. One, has our approach to date been one of seeing these experiences as blessings or burdens? What is our pattern? And in the choices we have made, did we become better people? Did we become better people? Or did we become more bitter, sarcastic, and irritated? Maybe even irritating. Think about it. All the things we've been through, what's your mindset? How often are you snarky? How often is that bitterness coming up? Well, you don't know what I've been through. Everyone's been through something. And I can promise you, I've got more stories than most, but I could look around here and see just as many on the faces of the people here. None of us are better off. But it's all about our attitude and our mindset. Am I going to spend a month complaining that I've had to drive my husband everywhere, change my schedule 1,000 times? I have 2 jobs and a child. It's been a complete schedule nightmare. And then when the doctor says, no, you need that today, I look at him like, wait, did you say today? But guess what? None of what I'm doing and my work matters more than him getting well. So I just tell him, the only thing you've got to say to me is that we're going to get a coffee on the way and on the way back, or one or the other. That's all I ever ask. Are you buying me coffee? What am I getting for this? Something has to be about me, for crying out loud. You know, I get a break too. But sorry, I can't help myself. Sorry, Jeffrey. I'm sure he is like, what? The good news is he isn't here. I get to say whatever I want. No, I miss you. So do they. But from a spiritual perspective, most of us would readily admit that our challenges in life have often revealed our highest good and increased our ability to recognize the gifts associated with all the blessings we actually have, like our life. But doing so is far more difficult when it comes to grief, right? When it comes to grief. And I'm not just talking about loss of life. I'm talking about loss of relationships, loss of a job, loss of any kind. It's very difficult to see the blessing until you realize that it's your choice. How can I look at this in a way that will help me get stronger, help me be better, and actually help me experience greater happiness? Because most of the time, if we would admit, we weren't exactly happy with what we had. We're just trying to keep the endurance going. But the choice we have is to focus our attention and energy on the blessing that we had, even in the past. What about the blessings? What about the relationships? When we lose a loved one who makes their transition, what's the thing we do? We're grieving, but are we talking about the great things? The great things that they did, that way we loved them, the way we appreciated them, the friendship we formed. And if we can do both, see the blessing and the burden, we will still be better off than if we choose only to focus on the burden. Sometimes our burdens teach us to improve our behaviors, to change the way we do things. For example, let's take simple things. A speeding ticket becomes a lesson for being more cautious. A person who is angered in response to something we say may cause us to become a better communicator in the future. Being fired from one job because of late arrivals or late deliverables will likely teach us to be a bit timelier. But it's not the end of the world. None of it is. We still have our life. This past week, the universe, as always, saw fit to help me prepare for today. And of course, in my inbox comes the De Leon message that is all about burdens and blessings. And here's what it said. This is just a small piece. It says, our gratitude deepens when we begin to be thankful for being alive and living the life we're living. Often when we practice being thankful, we go through the process of counting our blessings, acknowledging the wonderful people, things, and places that make up our reality. While it's fine to be grateful for the good fortune we've accumulated, true thankfulness stems from a powerful comprehension of the gift of simply being alive regardless of what is happening. If we only feel gratitude when it serves our desired, this is not true thankfulness. Now, we all know no one's exempt from the chaos, the ups and downs, the twists and turns. We're not going to stop people from walking out of our lives, whether that is through loss or whether that is through choice. But ironically, it's sometimes that kind of loss that awakens us to a thankfulness that goes deeper than just being grateful when things go our way. I found this great message from Charles Fillmore that he wrote in 1910 on this topic. It was called The Increasing Power of Blessings. And he puts a spin on it that I hadn't seen until I read what he was saying. So I've summarized this because it can be hard to understand him, especially in the way they wrote in 1910. But let's see if it makes sense to you. So first he talked about how everything is subject and receptive to the intelligent word, but that people tend to use the power of blessing based upon what it's attached to. For example, something good happens in our lives, we hope more of that will continue. But he goes on to say that the real power is in seeing the blessing as empowerment through which we can multiply and magnify all of our blessings and bring to visibility what is invisible. So in our prosperity prayer on Sunday, when we say we have faith in God to open ways when to the human sense there is no way, right? So what he's saying is that it isn't just about grabbing onto the blessing and being happy about that. It's about knowing that you have the ability to attract that and create that through your divinity, not through your head. And so if you put your words to it and you keep your thoughts there and you remember who you are on the inside, what's going to happen is that will be magnified and our blessings will continue to grow. He explains that that when we do this, we are embracing the creative law of this powerful universe we live in. And the idea is for us to see beyond the literal aspects of blessings, to lift our consciousness and to understand the power we were given at birth. I'll end with this message from Charles. There is great power in blessing when you have attained that place in consciousness where you know the divine within, and you stand forth as the light of the world. Let's review today's lessons. Seeing life experiences as a blessing or burden is our choice, and it requires the following. Number one, to view opposing forces as balance. The yin and yang equal light and darkness. Number two, to find value in every experience and give our best in everything. Number three, to remain positive and steadfast. Every obstacle requires both. And number four, to remember it's not what life brings, it's the attitude you bring to life. And that was written by John Homer Miller. Our affirmation today is, I choose blessing over burden. Let's say that together. I choose blessing over burden. And our quote for today is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Sometimes life's shadows are caused by our standing in our own sunshine. Let's take that in for a moment. So we pause now to recognize and reflect upon the gift of the divine within, the power we have to make a positive choice in seeing our blessings instead of our burdens, and looking for how we can grow from what is happening instead of asking, why is this happening, knowing that just more will continue to happen. And so we say thank you, God, for that ability to make choices and the freedom to live where we can. And so it is. Amen.